Well, hello students. So, continuing with your Geography of Health series, there is a third lecture in the series, and many of you might be surprised to see me in front of you with this lecture. The thing is, your ma'am asked me to take this lecture so that I could give you a more holistic view of the diseases along with the medical aspects. Myself being a doctor, she thought that it would be better if I take this lecture and present in front of you. So, without any delay, let's continue with the lecture, which is the deficiency diseases. So, many of you might be knowing me, or many of you might not be knowing me. So, those who know me, well and good. Those who don't me, so myself, Dr. Fahim Javed, and I'm an MD in pathology, and right now I'm working as a CMO in the trauma center, AMU Aligarh. So, let's begin with the lecture. So, before moving in the deficiency diseases, first of all, we should know that what is food means. Right now we are talking about the deficiency disease, but before that we have to know what deficiency are we talking of. So the deficiency is obviously the deficiency of the food. So how can we define food? Food is basically any substance which performs the following functions in the body. As you can see on the slide, that it yields energy for life processes. Obviously food helps in the energy process of our life, to sustain life, to provide energy to us. It helps in building up new cells for the growth of our body. It repairs the worn out tissues. It helps in the repair of the body. And also it aids in the production of useful body compounds, which are required by a body to fulfill its need. Okay. So apart from just satisfying your hunger and feeding you, the food has many different uses in the body, which is required. So moving on, let's have a look about nutrition. So what do you understand by the term nutrition? Basically, we are advised from our beginning of our life till our death almost to have a nutritious food, to have a diet full of nutrition. But what do we exactly mean by nutrition? So basically, nutrition is the sum of the processes by which an organism takes in food substance, metabolizes and utilizes it to act as an energy source, also to act as a various biochemical activities. So the nutrients are broadly, I think many of you might be knowing that the nutrients are broadly divided into two categories, speaking scientifically, not like as we speak in home, ki acha khana khao or sehatmand khana khao. All that can be categorized scientifically basically into two things. Either that will be a macronutrient in terms of the body requirement, either it will be a macronutrient or it will be a micronutrient. So how do we define both of these? So obviously macro and micro means, here the macro and micro word stands for the amount of the that particular food requirement, that food nutrient we require. In the macronutrients like the carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and obviously the most essential of all is the water. So macronutrients are those which are required in a large amount by your body, because in the absence of those, there can be a severe deficiency diseases. So these nutrients are required in large amount. But nonetheless, the micronutrients which are required in very minuscule amount, very small amount, they hold an equally important place for a body. Because in the absence of these, there can be several diseases which can occur due to deficiency of micronutrients. So these can be classified as either vitamins and minerals. Okay, so moving on. Our first macronutrient, which I'm going to discuss, is the carbohydrate. Basically, what is carbohydrate? Uh, Carbohydrate can be simply defined as a compound, any compound which is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and it acts as an important source, or we can say the most essential source, which provides energy required by our body. So these can be simply classified into either sugar, starch, or cellulose. The sugar is the main source because it is the sugar is used by the body directly without much complex process to use it, while starch is utilized by the body, but it requires much more complex process to digest it and use as an energy. But what is cellulose? What does the body do with our cellulose? Cellulose is such a compound which is not digested by our body, because the enzyme required for the cellulose digestion, that is the cellulase, it is not present in our body. So cellulose goes out of the body as such as it is taken inside. Basically, cellulose is used mainly as a roughage, which can help in the help relieving of the constipation. So cellulose is not uh, digested in our body, but it is basically used as a roughage. So what could be the function of carbohydrates? Like I said earlier, it mainly acts as a source of energy. It if there's excess carbohydrate, it can be stored as a glycogen and as a storage reserve for the body, which can be used in the case of starvation or in case of excess energy requirement by a body. Okay. Also, like I said, the cellulose provides fecal bulk and helps in bowel movement, very helpful in relieving the constipation or someone having chronic constipation or some bowel problem. And also, glucose is the only source of energy for the central nervous system. Like apart from our brain, rest of our body uses sugar or starch in some one or the other form. But our brain is the only organ which requires glucose in its purest form. It cannot use any of the sugar except glucose because it is the only sugar which can cross the blood-brain barrier through which things move from the blood to the brain. There is a barrier in between the blood and the brain which can be crossed by sugar only, not any other sugar. Okay. So the next components are fats. Fats, commonly in a very layman language, people say charbi, or in Hindi you say vasa. But in medical science, it has a different term. It's a different meaning. It is also a compound which is basically composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It contains more carbon and hydrogen while less oxygen, and it is one of the richest source of energy. Like I said, that carbohydrate is also a rich source of energy. Fat is also a rich source of energy, but the difference lies in the kilocalorie of energy provided by 1 gram of the compound. Like if we get around 4 to 4.5 kilocalorie per gram of carbohydrate, we get around 9 kilocalorie energy per gram of fat. So it is a very dense and rich source of energy. The sources could be of either type, either it can be animal source or a plant source. Animal source, we all know very well, ghee, butter, fish oil, meat, egg, etc. While the plant source could be vegetable oils from coconut, mustard, sunflower. Another classification under which a fat can be classified is the saturated and the unsaturated. While most of the medical literature and most of your physician doctors, they advise the dietitian, the health professional, they advise that you should consume more of the PUFA. What is PUFA? Polyunsaturated fatty acid, the fat which we consume for a health and for a good diet is should be unsaturated fat, because saturated fat is very harmful. Okay, so another classification which you can say is the unsaturated and the saturated fat, in which the saturated fat is the harmful one while the unsaturated fat is the good fat. So moving on, the function of fats, right? I said before only that it is the richest source of energy. It forms the structural components of cell cytoplasm and cell membrane. It helps in the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Uh, while I'll teach you later that vitamins are classified into two forms, like water-soluble and the fat-soluble. So there are many vitamins like vitamin D, A, K, E, which are fat-soluble. So fat is also required by our body to absorb these vitamins, which could be used by our body. It also acts as a precursor of various hormones, which it can be stored for subsequent use by the body. Like the carbohydrate, fat is also stored in body to be used in the hour of need or during starvation. Again, fat performs a very important role in the insulation of our body. In winter times, in cold, we need a good insulation for our body so that we feel less cold. For that, fat acts as an insulator beneath our skin, that is known as subcutaneous fat. It also provides padding to protect the vital organs of the body from shocks. Our body has various organs which have covering of fat over them, so that in case of some shock to the body or some jerk to the body, those organs could be saved. Like in a road traffic accident, many times those organs could be saved due to the layer of the fat around them that acts as a shock absorber. The next major macronutrient is the proteins. Proteins are uh, Proteins are said as the building blocks of our body. They provide the large macromolecules which are composed of mainly amino acids. These are complex molecules rich in carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sometimes phosphorus and sulfur. And these provide the building block of the body. The muscles we develop, the body parts we develop, that mainly comprises of the proteins. Its sources could be either a plant source or an animal source. Means all the major macronutrients, we can either get them through plant source or the animal source. So for animal source, those are like milk, egg, fish, bean, meat, and liver, while the plant source consists of cereals, pulses, nuts, grams, and legumes. Again, the function of proteins, it builds and maintains the body tissues. Like I said, it is a building block of our body. It is found in all enzymes. It is said that all enzymes are more or less proteins only. So it helps in the formation and the regulation of enzymes also. It functions as hormones to regulate many body functions. It can act as antibodies and protect the body from antigen. While also protein has a very important function. Those are known as transport protein. These transport protein acts to transport certain substances from blood to the tissues in the body and vice versa. Like the most common protein which you can uh, which you might be knowing is the hemoglobin. It is a type of protein and it helps in the transfer of oxygen from the from the atmosphere through the RBCs to the different organs. Okay, so it acts as a transport protein. Again, there are transport proteins that like thyroid protein for transporting vitamin A. There are transport proteins for transporting thyroid hormone, thyroxine. There are transport proteins for transporting iron to various tissues. So there are many proteins which act as a carrier or transporter to transport important and vital substances from to the body and from the body. Moving on, the first one in the micronutrient category is the vitamins. Vitamins are the chemical substances which are required in body in very small amount. That's why they are known as micronutrients. These act as biocatalysts in the body and are very essential for good health and protect the body from various diseases. So vitamins derived its name from the word vital. Vital means necessary. So these are nutrients which are very necessary. Those are known as vitamins. So vitamins can be broadly classified into two classes. They can be either water soluble vitamins or fat soluble vitamins. So water soluble vitamins are B complex like B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B12, and the vitamin C. And the fat soluble vitamins I told earlier also like A, D, E, K. The good thing with water soluble vitamins is that if you consume them in excess quantity, there is no need to worry because being water soluble, they can be dissolved in the water and they can be easily excreted by the body through urine. While the fat soluble vitamins, their excess can lead to vitaminosis. There can be severe problems with if there is excess of such vitamins. So fat soluble vitamins should be taken with care, while water soluble vitamins, they might get excess, but they are easily washed away by the body through excretion through the urine. Again, vitamins cannot be made in our body. That's why they are very essential, except for vitamin D, which most of us know. Like we do the sunbathing in the winter or early sunbathing in the summer when the sun is not too hot for either 20-30 minutes per day, so that our skin can manufacture the vitamin D with the help of kidney and the liver. So vitamins, most of the vitamins, almost every vitamin is not made in our body except vitamin D. There is one other thing I want to tell you. Like vitamin K is also manufactured in our body, but not in the skin. It is manufactured in the gut. So vitamin K and D both can be manufactured in our body. Other vitamins have to be supplied from outside, either through the diet or through some vitamin supplements. So the today's topic, the deficiency disease. So after knowing about all these macro and micronutrients, what do we mean by the deficiency? You can easily now understand what is the exact meaning of the deficiency disease. All the nutrients, let it be macro or micronutrient, if there is deficiency of any one or more of them in our diet for not very short period but for a much longer period, then a deficiency disease can occur. Okay, when there comes a word for deficiency disease, especially related to nutrition, you have to know what is malnutrition because it is interconnected. So malnutrition comes from the word mal and nutrition. Wherever the word mal comes, the mal means bad. It can be malnutrition, maladministration, malfunction. All that means bad. So malnutrition means bad nutrition. In common terms, we always understand that malnutrition means deficiency of nutrition or not getting enough food or not getting enough nutrition. But malnutrition covers both types of malnutrition. It can be undernutrition or overnutrition. So malnutrition, the condition resulting from lack or excess of nutrients in the diet, is called malnutrition, which can be either undernutrition or overnutrition. So basically, in this lecture, I'm going to discuss you the most important and the most affecting part which affects not only our nation but the whole world, that is undernutrition. Undernutrition. So a large number of people in our country suffer from malnutrition, which affects the health of almost half of the population of India, especially children, and which can result in physical as well as mental retardation. So before moving on to diseases due to malnutrition, there are some facts about malnutrition which I would like to share with you. Globally, approximately 149 million children under 5 years of age suffer from stunting. In 2008, over 49 million children under 5 were wasted and 17 millions were wasted. Now 40 million overweight children globally. That shows an increase of 10 million since 2000. So it is estimated by 2050, 25 million more children that today will be malnourished. So here are a few words which I would like to explain. I think you might not be very clear with those. Like the word is stunting, the word is wasted, and the word is overweight or undernourished. So the stunting means there is less height for age. The height which should be there for a child, which should be appropriate for his age, it's not there. It means he is shortened for the ideal height of that age. So that means stunting, and that shows the child is suffering from chronic malnutrition. Again, the term wasting. Wasting means low weight for age. The ideal weight, what should be at that age, is not there, and the child is having low weight for that age, and that denotes acute malnutrition. Again, undernutrition, that shows a combination of the stunting and the wasting. So in India, as per National Family Health Survey 4, there were 35.7% of children below 5 years of age which were suffering from stunting, wasting, and underweight respectively, while prevalence of severe acute malnutrition is 7.5%. In 2019, Global Hunger Index showed that India ranks 102 out of 119 qualifying countries, and that is a very serious concern for India. Moving on, it's a map showing a malnutrition hotspot throughout the world. Though it's a bit old data, but the trend follows the same even today. So you can easily see two very highlighted portion. One which we can easily identify, India and the Indian subcontinent and few of the countries in the Southeast Asian nations, while the other major portion is encompasses the African continent, especially the Central Africa and the few parts of West Africa, which are showing very severe acute malnutrition. Still today, the same trend follow. We are having severe malnutrition in India as well as in the continent Africa, while the part of America, Europe, and Russia, Australia is purely free from malnutrition. So, what are the types of deficiency diseases? Like I said before, the major components like carbohydrate, proteins, uh, vitamins, minerals, fats. So, the deficiency of those components only can lead to different types of deficiency diseases. Like the first one is the protein energy malnutrition. Here, major component is either protein deficiency or energy deficiency or the mix of both. Again, the mineral deficiency diseases, those can be due to different minerals required by your body like iron, sodium, potassium, iodine. The next is the vitamin deficiency diseases. Those can be either due to fat soluble vitamins or water soluble vitamins. So protein energy malnutrition, as the name suggests, there is a deficiency of either protein or energy or both. So it can be due to lack of proteins or carbohydrates or both in the diet. More intake of or there can be more intake of carbohydrate than protein. That means there is low protein energy ratio. Means the protein is low, but the energy is more. That can result in one type of protein energy malnutrition. While if there is deficiency in both, means protein is also low, energy is also low, that can lead to another type of protein energy malnutrition. So this can be basically classified into two types, either marasmus or kwashiorkor. So marasmus is basically deficiency of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Like I said, carbohydrates and fats both are the major source of energy, while protein acts as the building block of the body. So if there is deficiency of all the three, we are seeing that there is broadly there's deficiency of proteins plus the energy part. So in marasmus, we are having a severe deficiency of protein as well as energy, and this disease affects infants, especially below the age of 1 year. So what could be the possible symptoms? The symptoms could be wasting of muscle, which reduces the child to skin and bones. You can see a very skinny, thin child with protruding bones, which we can easily count the bones from just looking at the child. So thin he is. There are folded skin. Obviously, the subcutaneous fat has been lost. There is wasting of muscle, so the skin gets folded. There are sunken eyes, thin face, thinning of limbs and abdominal walls. There is severe physical and mental retardation, while the ribs become very prominent and they look as if there is a pigeon chest. Let me show you a diagram. So here you can very well see the picture of a child suffering from marasmus. This is the actual child, while this is the pictographic representation. Here you can easily count his ribs. You can easily see all the bones, very thinned out limbs, folded skin, and sunken eyes. In the so marasmus is an extremely severe type of nutrition disorder in which there is significant wasting of fats, muscles, and tissues of the body. Some risks for marasmus are chronic starvation, adulterated water, inadequate food intake, and vitamin deficiency. Obviously, obviously there are deficiency of macronutrients, but there are associated micronutrient deficiency also. So you can very well recognize this child as a case of marasmus. I think many of you might have seen such children in India also, probably in Aligarh also. While these pictures are very much common in the African continent. Again, the other protein energy malnutrition disorder, that is kwashiorkor. This is a disease which develops when there is low protein content, low protein supply, but the energy content is more or less adequate. So the protein energy ratio is decreased. Means there is low protein while the energy content is either adequate or high. The protein energy ratio is decreased. So the symptoms could be underweight. It has protruding belly. The skin is dark and scaly. It has enlarged liver. The child can have anemia, and he suffers from repeated diarrhea, stunted growth, loss of appetite, and there is swelling of legs and feet due to retention of water by the cell. Actually, the edematous feature is due to the lack of protein. The lack of protein leads to edema in the body, water retention in the body. That's why the child looks edematous. And here you don't see the child like this. Like earlier, we saw the child has skinny look and all the bones can be easily visualized. While in kwashiorkor, due to edema, the skin, the body under the skin gets filled with water, and hence you do not see the bones very clearly. But that doesn't mean the child is fat. It's just that the child is having severe edema. So here you can visualize very well the comparative analysis of the kwashiorkor and the marasmus. You can compare this child, the kwashiorkor child, with the marasmus one. The child looks edematous with a pot belly, protruding belly, and the face also looks swollen, edematous, while here the child is skinny and all the bones can be very visualized. The rib cage can be seen. This is known as the pigeon chest appearance. Okay. In this child, internal abnormalities can be there. There can be enlarged liver. There is subcutaneous fat is there. While the child is very lethargic, the appetite is the one of the major difference. How can we differentiate between the two? Is this child has a very poor appetite. I mean, he doesn't feel to eat. He doesn't like to eat. While this one has a voracious appetite. He eats like anything. You give anything, he'll eat up. So this is also one of the major difference between the, apart from the look of the child, the features which could be easily used to differentiate between the two diseases. So moving on with the vitamins and the associated disorders. Here you can see a chart of the various vitamins like B1, B2, B3, B12 and their names along with their daily requirement, their functions, sources. So this chart basically just to give you a brief idea that what vitamins are required for in what amount are required by the boys and the girls, and what could be their best sources, what are their functions, what could be deficiency. Like very commonly we know that B1 is associated with beriberi, B2, B3 is known as associated with pellagra, while B12 is pernicious anemia, one type of anemia. It's a type of anemia that leads to decrease in RBC. Again, vitamin C, Very commonly is associated with scurvy, also known as sailor's disease, in which you can easily see bleeding gums, pain in joints. Again, these are the water soluble vitamins, the B complex and the C. While in the fat soluble vitamin category, you have vitamin A, D, E, K. So vitamin A, we very commonly know, almost I think uh, everybody might be knowing that vitamin A deficiency leads to night blindness, a very severe disease or disorder, especially seen in children, which can lead to complete blindness also. So there can be xerophthalmia, there is drying of the eyes, and there can be dry skin. So the government has many programs also in which there is food fortification, especially rice with vitamin A, so that children don't have the deficiency of vitamin A. Also, there is vitamin A dosing given to the children at the time of birth and after few months of the birth to maintain the vitamin A level. Okay, so the night blindness associated with vitamin A can lead to uh, visual absence in the dim light. In the when the daylight is out and when there is complete night, the child is unable to see because vitamin A deficiency leads to non-development of the rods. Those are the parts of the eye, rods and cones. The cones help in the color vision, while the rods help in the dark vision. So if there is no if there are ill developed rods or there are absent rods, so the child cannot see in the dark. That's why there is night blindness due to deficiency of vitamin A. Again, vitamin D, as I said, it is synthesized by the skin and kidney with the help of sunlight in the daylight. So its deficiency leads to a very common disease in children, rickets in children, due to the failure of growing bones to calcify. Again, its deficiency is also seen in adults and can lead to osteomalacia. That is the resorption of bones, and that can lead to severe pain and fracture in the bones. The next one is the vitamin E, also known as tocopherol, and it is a very important vitamin if considered, especially in males, because it helps. It has a role in the sterility in the fertilization in the males. It helps in the reproduction in males and males, especially males, and its absence can lead to infertility or infertility we call basically in females, but in males we say it's sterility. Though its deficiency, prolonged deficiency, can lead to sterility in males, and while in females it can cause miscarriage or death of embryos during pregnancy. So that can lead to problem in pregnancy also. Again, vitamin K is one of the most important vitamin because uh, like whenever you have a minor cut in your body anywhere, and if you're bleeding, you see that after a few minutes the bleeding stops and the blood clots. That clot which you see, which helps in the stopping of the blood and which helps in excess bleeding, that clot has that clot is formed due to the vitamin K. Vitamin K serves as a very very important role in the clot formation. So without vitamin K, you can have excess bleed from a very minor bleed, and that can be fatal. So vitamin K helps in the clotting of blood, and its absence or its deficiency can lead to faulty blood clotting or severe hemorrhage. That is delayed blood clotting. Okay. So the another micronutrient is the minerals, which are micronutrients required in varying amounts for proper functioning, normal growth, and keeping good health of our body. Again, the minerals do not supply energy. Like vitamins, also they don't supply energy, but they form very important part of the functioning of our body. Like I said, each vitamin has a different specific role, and deficiency of any of them can lead to many diseases, many problems. In the same way, the minerals also do not supply energy to our body, but are essential for protection against diseases and also have role in body functions. Like they help in the development of bone and teeth. Very commonly, we know calcium and phosphorus. They help in regulating the fluid balance and acid alkalinity of body fluids, like the sodium and the potassium. Again, iron is a major component of hemoglobin, the very same transporter protein which helps in the transport of oxygen from the atmosphere to our body tissues. Again, iodine is also required for synthesis of thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is one of the most essential hormone of our body, which maintains the metabolism of our body, which helps in the mental growth of the children, and its deficiency can lead to severe mental retardation in children. Again, zinc, copper, magnesium, all these have a host of vital reactions in our body. They help in the reactions, enzymatic process in our body, which help in the different important functions in our body. So here's a chart which shows minerals required by our body, their sources, their functions, their deficiency diseases, and what could be symptoms if there's an absence. Like the important one, the calcium. We usually get it from the milk and the dairy products, fish, meat, green leafy vegetables, and it helps in the formation of bones, teeth, and nerves and teeth and muscles. Okay, its deficiency, we very commonly know that it can lead to rickets in children while osteomalacia in adults. Again, iron, one of the most important minerals which helps in the formation of hemoglobin that acts as a carrier of oxygen. Its deficiency can lead to anemia. And let me tell you that deficiency due to anemia, that is known as iron deficiency anemia, is the most common anemia in India, and especially among the women. So the symptoms could be due to deficiency of iron. It could be loss of weight. It could be pale appearance, and it could be tiredness, feeling of tiredness. Again, phosphorus, its deficiency can lead to again rickets and osteomalacia. Iodine, we very commonly know that iodine is required for the thyroid hormone formation, and its deficiency disease is known as goiter. Goiter, you might have been seeing, that is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. It swells up and it is known as goiter. So that is the swelling of the thyroid gland, that enlarged thyroid gland. So that can lead to less formation or ill formation of the thyroid hormone, leading to retardation and physical and mental growth, delay in the physical and mental growth. Again, sodium and potassium, they help in the maintenance of normal body water balance in the body, and they can easily be taken from the common soil and from the various diets, and their deficiency can lead to high blood pressure, edema. Again, the symptom could be severe malnutrition and a high BP. So these were the macronutrients and micronutrients and associated disorders, which are collectively known as deficiency diseases. Deficiency of these nutrients in our body due to deficiency in our diet. So this slide shows sustainable development goals. The purpose of this slide here is because nothing. If we talk of hunger, if we talk of poverty, SDG, or as we say, sustainable development goals are a must to discuss. So here you can see the sustainable development goal number 2 is the zero hunger. So it's UN suggested sustainable development goal, and the goal number 2 is to eliminate hunger, to wash out hunger from all over the world by 2030. Again, this chart shows very latest trend of various countries which are progressing toward achieving sustainable development goals. Here you can see that India is just in the midway, not in the very light portion, not in the very dark portion, in the midway, which is towards achieving the sustainable development goal. But still, it has many miles to go before it can achieve, and we are midway in achieving the sustainable development goal. So with this, I would now like to conclude my lecture. I hope you could understand the things which I explained to you very well. And if you feel like contacting me, uh, if you feel like knowing anything more, or anything you feel like anything clarifying more, you can connect to me at any time, any day. You are most welcome. So with this, I would like to conclude my lecture. Hope you all are doing well. You all are safe at your houses. Be safe and study and be good. All the best. Thank you.